There comes a moment in life when everything you've worked so hard for starts to feel out of reach. After sleepless nights, broken promises, and endless attempts to fix what refuses to be fixed, you find yourself questioning, why isn't it working? You've done everything right. Hustled, meditated, prayed, manifested, and still nothing moves. It's as if the universe is ignoring your calls, and you can't help but feel stuck in a loop that never seems to break. But here's the truth you've been avoiding. You've been forcing alignment with a clenched fist. The universe doesn't answer clenched fists. It answers surrender. Carl Jung, a man known for diving deep into the human psyche, once said, "What you resist not only persists but grows in size." You've been affirming your future, repeating mantras, and setting intentions. But deep inside, your energy is sending a completely different message. I don't have it. I'm not enough. I'm scared. The world listens to your energy, not your words. Your efforts aren't failing because you're lazy or broken. You're stuck in survival mode, trying to control things that were never meant to be controlled. You can't force alignment. You attract what you are, not what you want. So what if I told you that the most powerful thing you can do right now is stop? Stop chasing. Stop forcing. Stop proving. But not out of fear, no. Not from a place of weakness, but from a place of wisdom. Not because you're giving up, but because you're giving in. In surrender, there is power. When the doing stops, the becoming begins. When the noise dies down, the unconscious awakens. And when you stop interfering, your psyche begins to heal. The shadow begins to integrate, and reality starts aligning all on its own. This is not the end of your efforts. This is the beginning of your surrender. The moment you decide to stop, you will begin to understand that surrender isn't about quitting. It's about reconnecting with the essence of who you really are. By surrendering, you stop fighting against the flow of life, and instead, you start aligning yourself with it. You trust that everything is unfolding exactly as it's meant to. This process isn't easy and it takes time, but when you stop trying to force things into place, you'll finally see that life is working with you, not against you. There's this false belief that to succeed, you must constantly hustle. That every moment needs to be filled with some form of action. But think about it. When was the last time you really paused? When was the last time you let yourself simply be? The hustle culture teaches us that if we don't keep moving, we'll miss out. But in reality, it's the stillness that allows for true growth. You cannot force a flower to bloom faster by pulling at its petals. Just like that flower, you need the space to grow at your own pace. And sometimes that space is the quiet moment of surrender, where you trust that the growth is happening even when you can't see it. We've been fed a lie, the belief that success comes from relentless pursuit, that happiness is the result of constant striving. The media, our culture, society, they all tell us that if we just push harder, hustle longer, and keep grinding, eventually, what we want will fall into our hands. But that's not the truth. Carl Jung didn't teach us to chase dreams. He taught us to ask the most important question of all. Why am I chasing this in the first place? Jung's concept of the persona comes into play here. That mask we wear to present ourselves to the world, the carefully crafted image we believe will bring us acceptance and success. The persona becomes a prison when we start believing that this mask is who we truly are. We chase external validation, material success, and social approval because our persona demands it. But Jung warned us, the persona is a functional complex that comes into existence for reasons of adaptation or personal convenience, but is by no means identical with the individuality. The deeper truth Jung revealed is that what we chase externally is often a projection of what we lack internally. In Jungian psychology, projection is the unconscious mechanism by which we attribute our own repressed thoughts, feelings, and desires to external objects or people. When you desperately chase a relationship, you're not just seeking companionship, you're projecting your need for self-love onto another person. When you obsess over financial success, you're not just wanting security, you're projecting your sense of self-worth onto material accumulation. The thing you're chasing might not be the real desire. It's a band-aid for a deeper wound. When you crave love so badly, is it really about love? Or is it about the fear of being abandoned again? When you obsess over wealth, is it truly about money? Or are you still trying to prove your worth to the people who once made you feel small? Jung's genius wasn't in motivation, it was in confrontation. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Jung's concept of the collective unconscious reveals that beneath our personal unconscious lies a deeper layer of shared human experience. This collective unconscious contains what Jung called archetypes, universal patterns and images that influence our behavior. The archetype of the hero drives us to seek conquest and achievement. The lover archetype compels us toward union and connection. The magician within us wants to transform and create. But when these archetypal energies are unconscious, they possess us rather than serve us. Consider the hero archetype. It's supposed to guide us toward meaningful challenges and personal growth. But when it operates unconsciously, it becomes a compulsion to constantly fight, struggle, and prove ourselves. We become addicted to the battle itself, mistaking struggle for purpose. We chase harder challenges not because they align with our authentic growth, but because the unconscious hero demands conquest. This is why some people sabotage themselves just as they're about to succeed. The hero archetype needs a dragon to slay, even if it has to create one. The anima and animus, Jung's terms for the unconscious feminine principle in men and the unconscious masculine principle in women, also play crucial roles in what we chase. When a man's anima is unconscious, he might chase idealized romantic partners who embody his projected feminine qualities, never realizing he's actually seeking to integrate his own repressed emotional nature. When a woman's animus is unconscious, she might chase intellectual achievement or professional dominance as a way of connecting with her repressed masculine qualities of logic and assertion. That means if you don't bring your wounds into the light, they will control your desires and you won't even realize it. So, you keep running toward things thinking they'll complete you. But life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you are. If what you are is wounded, desperate, and fragmented, then every goal you chase will slip through your fingers. Because the energy behind your effort is sending the message, "I am not whole, I am not worthy, I need this to feel enough." And the universe mirrors that vibration. Jung introduced the concept of complexes, emotionally charged clusters of ideas or images in the unconscious that act like autonomous personalities within us. A complex forms around a traumatic experience or unmet need and continues to influence our behavior long after the original wound occurred. The mother complex drives us to seek nurturing in unhealthy ways. The father complex compels us toward authority figures who will finally give us the approval we never received. The inferiority complex makes us chase achievements to prove we're worthy of existence. These complexes operate like independent programs running in the background of our consciousness. You might consciously decide to pursue a career in law because you're passionate about justice, but unconsciously, you're driven by a father complex that needs to prove intellectual superiority. You might think you're seeking a loving partnership, but your mother complex is actually trying to recreate the familiar dynamic of conditional love you experienced as a child. The phenomenon Jung called compensation explains why our conscious intentions often fail to manifest. The psyche naturally seeks balance. When the conscious mind moves too far in one direction, the unconscious compensates by pulling in the opposite direction. If you consciously adopt an overly positive, high-vibe persona while repressing your shadow material, your unconscious will sabotage your efforts to maintain psychological equilibrium. This is why people burn out chasing relationships that never work, careers that drain them, and validation that fades. Not because the goal itself is wrong, but because the self behind the goal is fractured. The obsession is never about the thing. It's about what you believe that thing will fix inside you. If you got what you wanted right now, you wouldn't even be able to hold it, because your hands are trembling with old pain, old fears, and unresolved wounds. Jung's process of individuation, the central task of human development, involves integrating all aspects of the psyche into a unified whole. This includes confronting what Jung called the shadow, the parts of ourselves we've rejected, repressed, or disowned. The shadow contains not only our negative qualities, but also our unrealized potential. our authentic desires, and the parts of us that don't fit society's expectations. When we chase external goals while ignoring our shadow, we're essentially trying to build a house on an unstable foundation. The shadow will undermine our efforts through self-sabotage, projection, and the unconscious attraction of situations that force us to confront what we've been avoiding. A person who consciously pursues financial success while harboring an unconscious belief that money is evil will attract financial setbacks. Someone who seeks love while secretly believing they're unlovable will unconsciously choose partners who confirm this belief. Jung wasn't here to help you manifest from ego. He was here to help you integrate your soul. The most powerful thing you can do is stop chasing. Start facing the part of you that's been quietly screaming, "I'm not chasing success. I'm chasing wholeness." So before you ask the universe for more, ask yourself, what part of me still feels empty? Heal that part, and you'll stop chasing what was never yours. This is not about quitting your goals. It's about cleansing your reasons for pursuing them. It's about becoming the kind of person who no longer needs, because they've already become whole. The concept of active imagination that Jung developed offers a practical method for this integration. Active imagination involves engaging with the unconscious through dialogue, visualization, and creative expression. Instead of trying to control or eliminate uncomfortable feelings and desires, we learn to relate to them as autonomous parts of our psyche that have something to teach us. When you feel the compulsive need to chase something, try this. Personify that need. Give it a voice. Let it tell you its story. What is it really seeking? What old wound is it trying to heal? What authentic need is it expressing in a distorted way? Through this dialogue, you begin to separate the legitimate desire from the neurotic compulsion. You might discover that your obsession with career success is actually your inner child's way of seeking recognition and belonging. Your frantic pursuit of romantic love might be your soul's authentic longing for union disguised as emotional dependency. Only then will the universe stop testing you and start trusting you. Most people wake up every day thinking they're being tested by life, that the universe is throwing obstacles in their way to see how strong they are. But the truth is far deeper and more personal. You're not being tested, you're being mirrored. Life doesn't respond to what you want, it responds to who you are. Not your affirmations, not your Instagram captions about healing, but your unconscious identity, the silent belief system that pulses under every decision you make. Carl Jung understood this with brutal clarity. He said, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." Translation: stop looking for signs in the sky. Start reading the signs within your own soul. Because here's the brutal reality. If your unconscious mind is filled with doubt, fear, trauma, unworthiness, you could write affirmations in gold ink on your ceiling and repeat, "I'm enough," until your throat goes dry, and still it won't land because deep down you don't believe it. Jung's understanding of the psychic energy system reveals why positive thinking alone fails to create lasting change. He viewed the psyche as a closed energy system where nothing is ever truly lost. Energy can only be transformed or redirected. When we try to override negative beliefs with positive affirmations, we're not actually changing the energy. We're creating what Jung called a dissociation between conscious and unconscious contents. This dissociation creates internal conflict. Part of you is saying, "I am worthy," while another part is screaming, "No, you're not." The energy that should be flowing toward manifestation gets trapped in this internal war. Jung observed that there is no energy unless there is a tension of opposites. But when this tension becomes a battle rather than a creative dialogue, it depletes rather than generates power. The unconscious mind operates on what Jung called symbolic thinking, a language of images, emotions, and associations rather than logical statements. When you repeat an affirmation like, "I am successful," your unconscious doesn't process the words literally. Instead, it scans your emotional and imaginal associations with success. If those associations are contaminated with fear, shame, or past trauma, the unconscious will reject the affirmation as incongruent with your deeper truth. You can't lie to the unconscious. It hears everything, it remembers everything, and it runs the show. Even when you think you're in control, let's be real for a second. That tightness in your chest when you visualize your future, that anxiety when you think about how it'll all come together, that's not intuition. That's your unconscious screaming, "You don't really think this is possible, do you?" And so, life mirrors that. It delays the blessing not out of cruelty, but because your energy says, "I'm not ready to receive." Jung's concept of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that seem to reflect our inner state, demonstrates how the unconscious communicates with external reality. Synchronicities aren't random events. They're expressions of what Jung called the transcendent function, the psyche's natural tendency to create bridges between conscious and unconscious contents. When your unconscious is filled with conflict and resistance, you attract synchronicities that reflect this inner chaos. Missed opportunities, relationship conflicts, technical difficulties, and obstacles that seem to appear out of nowhere. These aren't punishments from the universe. They're invitations from your unconscious to pay attention to what needs healing. Conversely, when you achieve genuine inner alignment, synchronicities begin to support your conscious intentions. The right people appear at the right time. Resources materialize when needed. Doors open effortlessly. This isn't magical thinking. It's the natural result of having all parts of your psyche moving in the same direction. The inferior function in Jung's typology system often holds the key to understanding why our conscious efforts fail. Jung identified 4 psychological functions: thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition. Most people develop 1 or 2 of these functions consciously, while leaving the others in an inferior, undeveloped state. The inferior function becomes a source of unconscious sabotage because it contains authentic aspects of our personality that we've neglected. A person whose dominant function is thinking might consciously set goals based on logical analysis, but find themselves sabotaged by their inferior feeling function, which rebels against purely rational pursuits that ignore emotional values. Someone whose dominant function is intuition might have visionary goals but struggle with practical implementation because their inferior sensation function remains unconscious and chaotic. The process Jung called the transcendent function offers a path to integration. This function emerges when we learn to hold the tension between opposing psychological forces without choosing sides. Instead of trying to eliminate doubt with positive thinking, we learn to dialogue with both our confidence and our uncertainty. Instead of choosing between our dreams and our fears, we discover the creative third option that honors both. Jung's exploration of dreams reveals another layer of unconscious communication. Dreams aren't random neural firing. They're the psyche's attempt to balance conscious attitudes with unconscious perspectives. When you're consciously pursuing a goal while unconsciously resisting it, your dreams will often present scenarios that reveal this conflict. A person consciously seeking a promotion might dream of being chased by authority figures, revealing unconscious fears about responsibility and visibility. Someone manifesting a romantic relationship might dream of being trapped or suffocated, indicating unconscious ambivalence about intimacy and commitment. These dreams aren't predicting failure, they're highlighting the internal work needed for authentic success. So what do? We stop. We stop begging. We stop obsessing. We stop throwing more positivity on top of internal chaos. Real power isn't found in more effort. It's found in presence. It's found in slowing down enough to hear the whispers of your own psyche. When you feel doubt, don't run from it. When fear shows up, don't bury it under another motivational podcast. Sit with it. Decode it. Because every fear is a message. Every hesitation is a signal. Your unconscious is always speaking. The question is, are you brave enough to listen? Jung's method of amplification provides a practical tool for decoding unconscious messages. When a particular emotion, image, or impulse repeatedly appears in your experience, amplify it through association and exploration. If anxiety arises when you think about your goals, don't immediately try to eliminate it. Instead, explore its qualities. What does this anxiety feel like in your body? What images or memories does it evoke? What is it trying to protect you from? Often we discover that our resistance contains essential information. The anxiety about success might be protecting you from repeating a family pattern of achieving at the expense of relationships. The fear of visibility might be safeguarding your authentic self from the persona's tendency to perform for approval. When we listen to resistance with curiosity rather than judgment, it often transforms from obstacle to ally. The concept of psychological types reveals that different people have different natural approaches to manifestation and goal achievement. Jung identified two fundamental attitudes, extroversion and introversion, and four psychological functions. An introverted intuitive type will naturally manifest through inner vision and gradual emergence, while an extroverted sensation type will prefer concrete action and external engagement. Many manifestation teachings assume a one-size-fits-all approach that may actually work against your natural psychological type. If you're an introverted feeling type trying to force yourself into extroverted thinking strategies, you'll create internal resistance that undermines your efforts. Understanding your psychological type allows you to align your manifestation approach with your natural energy patterns. And here's the twist. When you finally do nothing, when you stop interfering, when you stop trying to force divine timing with human impatience, that's when the shift begins. That's when your energy aligns. That's when the unconscious stops resisting. And that's when the universe says, now you're ready. You're not here to chase alignment. You're here to become it. And becoming begins in stillness. The paradox Jung understood is that surrender is not passive. It's the most active thing you can do. In surrendering, you're not giving up your agency. You're aligning your conscious will with the deeper intelligence of the psyche. You're allowing the self, Jung's term for the organizing principle of the whole psyche, to guide the process rather than forcing it through ego effort alone. This surrender requires what Jung called holding the tension of the opposites. You hold both your desire and your uncertainty, your vision and your fear, your effort and your release. In this tension, something new emerges, not from the ego's forcing, but from the self's creative power. When you stop interfering with your natural psychological processes, when you stop trying to be someone other than who you are, when you align with your authentic nature rather than fighting against it, you discover that manifestation isn't about getting what you want. It's about becoming who you truly are. And who you truly are has everything it needs. As you stand at the edge of this transformation, remember, the true power lies not in chasing, but in surrendering. The path ahead is yours to walk, but it begins within. If you felt something shift inside you, if this message resonated, I invite you to take the next step. Like this video, share it with those who need to hear this truth, and subscribe to our channel for more moments of reflection, growth, and transformation. Your journey doesn't end here. It's only just beginning. Stay connected, keep evolving, and remember, you are not alone. Thank you for being part of this. Until next time, stay present, stay true,